Squatters in Spain, the taboo subject that no one talks about. Today, we're joined by an expert to talk about this. By the end of this video, you'll know everything you need to know in order to avoid this happening to you. I'm really excited to be here with Rafael Fontán.
Yes, I'm also excited and pleased to come here back to High Home's headquarters.
Exactly. So, Rafa, for the viewers that don't know you, you are a good friend, and apart from that, your law firm, Fontán y Zurreta, you guys are experts in property law.
Yes.
And everything surrounding property in Spain.
Exactly.
So there was no one better to talk about the subject of squatters than yourself. So I wanted you to sort of jump on the channel with us, and we have a sort of brief conversation of the subject which no one talks about, which is squatters. So I would like to start talking about the most simplest of questions, which is, the subject of a squatter. We call it Ocupa in Spain. So what is a squatter, Rafael?
So very basically, a squatter is whoever jumps into a property, okay, which may be unoccupied or currently someone living, but no, someone's not there at the moment, okay? Basically brings into a house just to make it for their own, okay? Not to become the owner, but to live in the house, okay? Someone who intends to live at the property without having any legal right to live in the same.
This is a worldwide phenomenon, like, squatters happen worldwide. And there's something which I keep on hearing online, which is the reason why I thought it was good to do a video.
Yeah.
Because a lot of misinformation about what squatters are. And there's one thing I keep on hearing on our comment section sometimes and online, and it's squatters have rights. So one of the questions to you is, do squatters have rights in Spain?
So the short answer for this is no. They have no rights in Spain. The issue in Spain, or the main difference or the alternative in Spain is that the Spanish regulation in general is very protective when it comes to housing matters, when it comes to family members living in a property.
Yeah.
And some squatters actually take advantage of these regulations in their favor, okay? So it's different. The Spanish law is not thinking about protecting squatters themselves, okay? But they're just trying to protect housing for families. Turns out that this regulation is so protective that some people may take advantage of this, and in this case create some problems, as it is for the squatters and for owners who see the property breaking in by someone else,
And also, since I've been in real estate, so 12, 13 years now, in Spain at least it's more of a recent phenomenon. Where would you say it's more common?
To be honest, I mean, out of our experience, and we're talking about thousands of clients, the issue of the squatters is not as big as it is thrown in the media, okay? It is true that there's a lot of noise behind this, okay? Because one case brings a lot of attention, but the truth is that as far as from our experience, we have not had any client who has suffered this situation. Mainly, it could happen that here in the area of the Costa, of course, it's quite a safe place, but also the developments are close developments. There's not so much isolated properties that may be more, I would say,
accessible or easy.
Yes, accessible or easy to break in, all right? To be honest, it is something that happens, or at least it is known to be happening more in the area of Catalonia, okay? Barcelona area, maybe some areas surrounding Madrid. Here in the southern coast of Spain, at least, as per our experience, we don't feel that this is one of the main topics or a main issue,
I also think, Rafa, you touched on something earlier, which is quite interesting. It's like, when it does happen, it gets a lot of media attention. And I think that's like quite interesting because, if you look at the problem, like, is it sort of a problem that's blown out of proportion? Because like the headlines is very dramatic, like property is squatted, the owners can't access. It's so dramatic that it gets all this media attention.
I mean, to be honest, because when it happens, it is really a crazy situation. It's very frustrating, and it's understandable that people bring a lot of attention to this. The truth is that it is not so common, to be honest. It's not so common, and thankfully, there's ways or there's alternatives to find a way to take them out. That we will speak later on. But it's not such a common issue. That's one of the main things that I would say.
So we know that as of this year, 2025, there's new laws that have come into place.
Yeah.
But before we get into those 2025 new laws, what do you do if, I'm Kian and I have a holiday home and there is a squatter in one of my properties? I know it's uncommon, but what do I do? What's my 101 guide?
First thing is to call police. I mean, so people should know that police have the possibility within the first 48 hours to go there and take them out. This may happen, okay, as long as the squatter does not use any type of tricks to try to, derive this case into a court case, okay? But the truth is that if it's very recent, if someone calls us and tells us they've just broken into your property, or the alarm has just given you has a ring and telling you that someone has breaking, call police. That's the first thing. And it's possible that the police takes them out. Otherwise, we would need to start with a court proceeding that we will discuss afterwards.
So let's say one of the biggest tips for anyone out there is have an alarm system.
Having an alarm system.
That's like your fail-proof way of making sure that,
especially for properties which are not going to be used on a daily basis. I mean, if you have a second property in Spain, my absolute advice would be to have a good alarm system, for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about 2025. So Pedro Sánchez has thrown a battery of new laws into effect, or the government have.
Yeah.
Some controversial for other reasons,
Yeah.
but let's talk about squatters and how this 2025 laws will actually, improve the situation for Spanish property owners.
Basically, there's been a change in law by which all these court proceedings to be able to take out squatters from the property have been derived in what we say express court proceedings. Basically, for any squatter breaking into a property, which is a clear case, police goes there, they take the details, the police will create a file, and within 15 days, the judge will have the court hearing, and they should be able to, within 3 days after the court hearing, to draw up the, basically decide whether they are able to stay or they will just be thrown out of the property, okay?
And traditionally, that would take a lot longer.
I would say it depends on each court, okay? And to be honest, this 15-day term, which is in the new law, we will have to wait to see how much it actually takes the courts. But in principle, it would be much faster. The standard court case might probably take roughly, I don't know, maybe 9 months, 9 to 10 months. That's the standard, the medium in Spain, With this proceeding, it will be much faster.
So that's what we were saying earlier. Rights, squatters don't have rights, but what they use is the
Yes.
system in their advantage.
Exactly.
So basically, they will come up with some sort of reason why they're there, and then they'll take advantage of how long things take in Spain. Because they know they're going to be eventually they will have to leave, but they know that court cases in Spain take a very long time.
Yeah.
And that's what this new law is going to change.
Yes, exactly.
What aims to change.
What aims to change, exactly. And to be honest, it's a very positive step towards finalizing any type of issues with squatters, Basically, within 15 days, if everything goes according to plan, they should be able to, the court will be able to already evict them, how we say, just take them out.
So we've talked about, what squatters are, the rights that they don't have, but how they use the system. We've talked about the new laws, right? Yeah. Let's do two things, right? How to prevent it happening to you, right? And I think that this is mostly the case for people which have holiday homes, which have properties closed for a very long period of time. Because if you live here or you live here a lot of time of the year, it's really like, it's not really, relevant, right?
It's really non-existent because as well as the squatters would be protected basically because in Spain generally the housing is very protected. That would be the same for a property which is used on a daily basis. That is your housing use, and you are as well protected as them. So for standard properties, for your day-to-day house or your second home, if it's constantly used, that's not such a big issue. That's a different criminal offense than squatters. Because that is basically breaking into a property or a house. Yeah. It's different than breaking into an empty property.
Empty property, yeah. So let's talk about that. So, let's say for those empty properties, right? Like, we said that there's the chances in Costa del Sol is not a huge problem compared to other parts of Spain, but let's say that happens, that could happen. How do our viewers prevent it from happening? Let's talk about prevention, and then let's talk about what to do if it happens to you.
My main advice, of course, there's two main things that I would do. First of all, have a good alarm installed, okay? There's even alarm companies which offer anti-squatter systems. They already have their processes and how to approach the police and how to especially organize this in order to be able to get the squatters as soon as possible. And then, of course, what I would do is maybe hire some type of property management services, which is offered by many property developments or by many companies here in the area, which take care of your property every once in a week or every once in 2 weeks. And just for us, it would be just a way to make sure, first of all, that the house is in good state, there's no water leakage or there's no broken pipes, basically, but also just to make sure that there's no one around or no one has entered or broke the property.
Okay, so that's how to prevent it, which is pretty straightforward. Just an alarm system. Someone breaks in, the alarm goes off. You call police. Police throw them out.
Exactly.
That's how simple it is, right? And just for people that might not know, an alarm system in Spain might cost 40 to 55 euros a month. You have Seguritas Director Prosegur and all of those. Okay, but let's say you're the one in X 100,000 people, and you're very unlucky, and you don't have an alarm, and you don't have a property management company, and you don't really take care of your property, so you're a bit sort of like despistado, so you don't really realize. And then, it's very easy to access, and someone ends up accessing your empty property.
Yeah.
What actually do you do? What's the first thing you do?
First thing is call police. I would approach the property. I would go there, call police, make sure the police comes there, and you have to give proof to the police, of course, that this is your property, and that there was nobody living there before these people came in. Okay.
So that's why an alarm is important.
Exactly, because basically the squatter, what they will try to explain to the police is that they've been living there maybe for longer than what, of course, they've been there, and maybe that they have some type of right or, I don't know, fake contract to live in the property.
No?
That's why it's important that someone goes there to the property, shows why the alarm has come up, that there was nobody living there before, or that you are the owner and that you had no clue there was somebody there, you have not signed any type of contract.
Okay, so they're in there, and you call the police, and for some reason, it ends up
you can
complicating.
If everything goes well,
Yeah.
Police will take them out within 48 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. If we can give proof that they have just broken within the first 48 hours, they will be taken out by the police. If they start using tricks such as fake contracts or similar situations, then we would start the court proceeding. Okay.
Which traditionally would take up to 9 months.
Yes, but nowadays it will be much faster. We could do it up to 15 days.
With the new change of laws.
Yes.
Okay. There's a very controversial company that's called Desokupa with what's his name, Esteve, no? Something.
Esteve, yes, I can't remember his.
He's very famous in.
Yes,
very famous
Spain.
in Barcelona.
Yes. There's many type of companies. There's not only Desokupas, but these are companies which, the same way that Okupas have their own tricks, these companies have their own tricks to take them out. Basically, what they do is they design access controls into the properties in a way that at some point, if the Desokupa goes out of the property, they are never let in again, because they use their own tricks for because in principle, communities are allowed to establish access controls at the gates, and they become basically the access control. Normally, if it's in a development, which is strange, all the other own neighbors, they don't want Okupas to be there, so they are all fine with someone just controlling. And at some point, if the Okupa goes out the property, they will never let him in back again. Yeah.
So that's super interesting. What an interesting business model. Rafael, I think we've covered absolutely everything that we need to cover in terms of squatters. As you know, our channel mentality is to talk about everything that our audience asks about, everything that's relevant to property in Spain. And I think we've covered sort of the most important parts of everything. What would you sort of conclude? So, if you've got, let's say, 30 seconds, 1 minute for our audience listening to you, what would you sort of, finish this conversation for them to sort of go away thinking, that's the conclusion Rafael has on this matter?
Our experience, our honest and is people not to be so much afraid of this, to be honest. It's very, very rare cases in which this happens.
Fair enough.
For instance, for us, we have never seen such a situation with any of our clients happening. And also, people should know that there are ways, either through the court, through the police, with some companies, just to be kind of aware of this and try to find solutions faster than through the old proceedings, which normally took months to take out, But people should firstly know that it's not something that happens often, not at all. Not at all.
So I would then sort of wrap up by saying thank you, Rafael,
Thanks to you
for joining.
For having me.
Yeah, it's been great. And if you are new to this space and it's the first time you come across our content on YouTube, feel free to like this video, comment any questions you might have so we can answer those as soon as we can. We will get back to all your comments, we promise. And if you're interested in keeping posted with information or content on Spain, property in Spain, Costa or real estate, press the subscribe button. If you press the bell button, you'll be notified every time content like this one comes out. And like always, guys, hasta luego.
Hasta luego.